Yeah, you know who it is. Welcome in to the Teal Shirt Report podcast. My city, my team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of changes. Got a new general manager who's really kind of making a statement. I think he's a interesting guy, very young, 34 years old. I told John Gaylor my opinion of him. But then I hear all these words he's saying. Now, one thing that's interesting about the GM, and we all know Tony Baselli is the executive vice president of football operations. Shad Khan is the owner. His son Tony Khan is way up there. Shad Khan's right hand man is Mark Lamping, kind of handles the business side of things and all the projections and the profits, right? You're an NFL team, you're going to make some money. You're going to share this big pot and pie kind of. I think I lost myself in the screen, but that is my city. You're seeing my city in the background. Thank you guys for tuning in. The Teal Shirt Report podcast brought to you by Saucer, Realty and Capital, and for your state needs in North Florida, whether it's home, residential, business, or commercial real estate. Saucer, Realty and Capital. Got to get up with Larry to have lunch. Get the word back to him. Ready for lunch somewhere. Probably seafood. See some food needed, right? Seafood. Um, General Manager Liam Cohen. And before I speak of no, well, I should say Liam Cohen is a head coach. It gets a little confusing, right? The new head coach of the Jaguars, formerly the offensive coordinator, Liam Cohen, formerly the OC of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, for the first time ever, he's a head coach. And now maybe the newness maybe starting to wear off. And he says, man, we got to win games. That's what you need to say. Then you got a new GM, and before I mention the new GM, I mentioned Tony Baselli, the vice president, the executive vice president of football operations. Tony and Liam were hired before the GM, as you know. Um, Tony was brought in to be on the second interview with Liam Cohen and being on, a few other interviews until different ones were hired, along with the general manager process. So the head coach is hired. Tony Baselli's hired as executive vice president of football operations. He was in on the Liam Cohen interview. And I think that was kind of all early on, kind of a favor to Shad Khan. And then Shad said, hey, let's keep Tony around here permanently on a kind of a daily basis as executive vice president of football operations. We're 3 minutes in on the Teal Shirt Report podcast brought to you by the madmaxmix.weebly.com. Mad Max has his show every Wednesday night. Mad Max is listed in our ticker on the YouTube side, on the video side. Check out Max's show. He's back on. He got back on March 5th. Had another great show March the 12th on Wednesday nights. Check out the Mad Max Mix.weebly.com. JC played the Beatles for me. I asked him to play a Beatles song or two, and he played at least one of them. And that was on Thursday night, live from the pub with JC on Thursday nights at Lake Eufaula Hits, lakeeufaulahits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. So now we're going to talk more about general manager James Gladstone, 34 years old, 8 or 9 years experience with the LA Rams. And, when I heard the story about how he met up with Les Snead, I think he was like Les Snead's son's high school coach or something, way back when the Rams were actually in St. Louis. Les Snead has been the GM of the Rams for that long. And that is what you've got to say is stability. And Les Snead is he's not an old guy. I mean, he's what is Les? 53, 54 years old. He's not an old guy. Um, Comes from the same hometown. He's our executive producer, JC. And I'll just leave it at that. So we know a lot about Les Snead. Man, he's done some great things. The Rams, I don't think people really thought they'd make the playoffs last year, but they did. Who's the general manager? Les Snead. On that staff with Les Snead, James Gladstone, now the general manager of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Um, by the way, the Players Championship Golf Tournament has Akshay Basia and Bin Woo Lee. They share the lead after 2 rounds going into Saturday's 3rd round at the TPC Sawgrass. As we record this podcast on Saturday morning, March 15th of 2025, the big event in Jacksonville, the Players Championship Golf Tournament at Sawgrass, basically at Ponte Vedra Beach, Ponte Vedra Beach, Florida. 6 minutes in, I do want to talk about general manager. I almost called Liam Cohen the general manager, but he's the head coach. It's general manager James Gladstone. Kind of sound that last name kind of sounds like a Flintstone character, doesn't it? Like in Bedrock, you got Gladstone. You'll never hear that anywhere else but here on the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We give you the nuggets, the insights, and our maximum opinion, no doubt. James Gladstone has been throwing around these different dynamic words during press conferences, and a couple things have stood out to me recently. I watched a very short video of about 2 minutes talking about the free agent board. First of all, general manager James Gladstone calls it pro free agency, not to confuse it with the college football draft, but he calls it pro free agency. And bringing players in, Gladstone likes to say, we like that player joining. He kind of says it maybe in this type of realm. We like this player or these players to join our ecosystem. And I've never heard that phrase used by a general manager. I don't know if Les Snead uses that technology, but certainly the general manager of the Jaguars, James Gladstone, does. Um, some of the guys that Jaguars have parted ways with, we're talking about free agency. Florida Gator basketball team having a great year. I saw the Iceman finally lost, off a bunch of wins in a row. He's going to have some games coming up. The Veterans Memorial Arena this month in March. Great hockey. In our sports section at bigjreport.com, we have our 2025 article up. We put a lot of stuff in there, and there's old stuff in there too you can review. But for Jags news and notes, Jacksonville Jaguars now signing a good many free agents now. And again, we're putting the list together. Former Jag safety Andre Cisco is gone. He signs a free agent deal with the New York Jets now. A 1-year deal, as I understand. Jacksonville Jaguars center Mitch Morse retires here in March of 2025. Wide receiver Christian Kirk is now officially was talking about he was going to be outright released, and now we found out the next day it was actually a trade with a late draft pick. Wide receiver Christian Kirk was traded to the Texans for a 7th round pick in 2026. Jaguars also cut tight end Evan Ingram. Safety Ronald Darby is also cut. He didn't show me much last year. The Jaguars also parted ways with kickoff returner Devin Duvernay here in March of 2025. And in all fairness to Duvernay, I did hear on social media that he was not 100% all the time, had some injury issues. So those are some of the players going. Now, also, I wanted to, boy, great concert coming to Northeast Florida. Foreigner, Chicago, JC's boy Rick Springfield, along with Wang Chung. Dance All Days. Remember Dance All Days? That was probably their hit, maybe their only real super hit for sure. I'm gonna have to go on YouTube and watch Wang Chung and see, take in some of their songs I'm not that familiar with. I like doing that with musical artists sometime. But Wang Chung, Shaun Waite, formerly of the Babies, who had a Shaun Waite has had an outstanding solo career. Probably his biggest song was a song called "Missing You." John Waite, Rick Springfield, John Cafferty, Wang Chung, all coming Northeast Florida with an '80s show. All the details are up at the bigjreport.com. In the concert area, in the Neighbors 2 section, scroll and scroll and scroll, you'll find it. You'll find a lot of stuff up there in the Neighbors 2 section. Links to Mad Max's show on Wednesday night and links to JC's show on Thursday night, live from the pub with JC. And you got the madmaxmix.weebly.com on Wednesday. Both of these shows start about 6 o'clock Central Time, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. Mad Max on Wednesday nights at madmax.com, and JC live from the pub on Thursday nights at Lake Eufaula Hits, lakeeufaulahits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. So we talked about some of the players that are leaving. Cisco was gone. He signed with the Jets. Evan Ingram, who the Jags parted ways with, I believe he's already signed or is rumored to be signed by Denver. I'm not sure officially. I mean, I can look it up right now. We'll do that during the podcast. Evan Ingram, I'm sure, will be missed by, he's even said so, that Evan Ingram, he'll miss Evan Ingram, but there's new players coming in for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Evan Ingram is headed out to Denver. Let's see. Evan Ingram. I believe Evan Ingram, I see him with a Denver shirt on. Sometimes they put those on him on social media. Evan Ingram, now this is according to ESPN. Evan Ingram is the Denver Broncos tight end now. Okay, so he signed on with Denver. All these players changing places, right? And you're tuned in to the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Now, the free agent signings came so rapidly and so quickly, it was hard to keep up with them. Normally, it starts, the free agent frenzy will start on a Monday and it'll roll into Tuesday and Wednesday, and then you have the press conference about Thursday, and there's a lot of new players in the fold. I was really surprised at the amount of the signings. But the general manager, James Gladstone, head coach Liam Cohen, and Tony Baselli, the executive vice president of football operations, have all signed off on this. And I'm not going to say it's a bad thing. I come from the old school where, gosh, before free agency, a team like the Minnesota Vikings would have the purple people eaters on defense, and they were there for nearly a decade. And the fans got used to the names, the players, and said, hey, those are our guys. Football, as I beat on the desk here and clear my ear. Wow, that really did do that. It's changed. All the players are like their own industry now. There was rumors about, the guy, right? By the way, I'm Scott, your host for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Our executive producers, JC, and other producers, Alex Nunnery, John Gaylor, our correspondent and contributor to the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We're on Saturday morning, March 15th. Jacksonville Icemen having a great year, but they're coming off a loss against Orlando. Actually, a rare loss over the last couple of weeks for the Icemen. They've been hot on ice here recently. But we want to really take a look now. By the way, check out the Neighbors 2 section at bigjreport.com and the concert listings, Foreigner, Chicago, Rick Springfield. There's many other great shows are coming. The Gene Simmons Band. Kiss no longer officially out there, but the Gene Simmons Band is. And we've got that show up at bigjreport.com in the Neighbors 2 section. So check it out. So I wanted to actually check out free agency. And the free agent signings, I told you some of the players that are gone. I heard a rumor that Gardner Minshew now is going to go to Kansas City and perhaps be their backup. I will tell you that the wide receiver's name that was bandied about, Cooper Kupp, was linked with the Jaguars, the Saints, Dallas, and then a surprise team moved in, swooped him up, and wide receiver Cooper Kupp, who was actually a former Super Bowl MVP, had ties with general manager James Gladstone. The Rams and Les Snead released him. You know, the Rams are having to work the salary cap like everybody else. They spend a lot of money out in Los Angeles on players, but Cooper Kupp is gone. He's had some injury issues, but the story is before he signed is he's back to 100%. And obviously that's being put out by Kupp and his agent, and I hope he is. He has signed a new deal with the Seattle Seahawks. And then Jaguars fans on social media, some of them said, man, he's getting too expensive. $15 million a year kind of took him out of the price range of some of the teams. I know the Cowboys were interested, the Saints, the Jaguars, and Cooper Kupp now signs with the Seattle Seahawks. I mean, he's one of the top, he'd have to be considered one of the top 2 or 3 free agents in all of the NFL. And now he has signed with the Seattle Seahawks. I did want to take a look at the free agents. We do actually have a list of the free agents, and it's been like a day-by-day basis. Jaguars getting new players over probably, a 3-day period, a 2 to 4 day period. And we'll take a look at the free agents. Let's make sure we're rolling pretty good. We're 17 minutes in right now. Let's take a look at the free agents. Give me a moment. We'll get right back at it. Latest free agent signings. And I was surprised about a few things. The amount of free agents, the quality of the players. I don't see any superstars here, but I see good players. Dyami Brown, I hope I'm pronouncing his name right, with the Washington Commanders. I saw his highlight reel. He made some dynamic long catches. He might be a guy that can stretch the field. And obviously we know that Brian Thomas Jr., the Jaguars rookie phenom who got over 1,200 yards receiving last year, and he's on a rookie deal. It'll be his second year. But you're going to add Dyami Brown to the mix, former Washington Commander wide receiver. Let's see some other players. You know, I had heard about Robert Hainsey, who did not start for Tampa Bay. He was like the backup center, but he did start a couple of years earlier. And the thing about him, he's only 26. When I started to see these names come up, you know what came to my mind first off? And I know it bothered John Gaylor, but I said, man, this is reminding me of Dave Codwell. That might be a bad thing to say, but let's hope for the best. And because Dave Codwell, when he was a general manager of the Jaguars, man, he had a long list of guys. You remember the player that got in a lot of trouble a couple of years ago, and that was long after his Jaguars days. But he had a Mr. Rogers shirt on. I met him. I saw him down at the stadium. Yeah, I had gotten some Jaguars players to sign some stuff for me and some other people, and I got to this guy. And he had a shirt on, a Mr. Rogers shirt that said, what did that shirt say? Said it's all good. But for that guy, I don't think it is good right now. His mother passed away, and I don't want to get into that guy at the moment, but I know they were fans ripping him. He used to play for the Colts, the Jags. He did not play very well for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm not even going to mention his name, but he was actually linked to a murder investigation as well. And but I'm not going to go into that. But he did play at Notre Dame. I do remember that part. We may bring his name up later. But I remember he was wearing a Mr. Rogers T-shirt. It said, "It's all good." And I asked one of the other players, I said, "Who is that guy?" And the guy said that I'm talking about said, "Man, I'm not going to sign anything if you don't know who I am." But it was kind of tongue in cheek. He was kind of joking around with me. But let's get back to that was part of Dave Codwell's class, right? But you don't hit on all these guys. Let's be aware. And even Gladstone, General Manager James Gladstone, has said, "Hey, you're not going to hit on all these guys. But in my mind, you want to hit on more. You want to have more hits than misses." I saw the highlight film on Diami Brown. Looks pretty good. Played his college ball at North Carolina. Young guy, 25, made great catches all over the field and down the field for the Washington Commanders. Had a great rookie quarterback he was playing with. And probably the offensive rookie of the year last year, the Washington Commanders quarterback. And great players. Name escapes me. Played at LSU. Jaden Daniels. That's what I'm talking about. But of course, he's going to be a fixture in Washington for a long, long time with the Commanders or whatever they call that team in the future. I always knew him as a Washington Redskins years ago. So basically, Diami Brown had his 4 years. His former team was the Washington Commanders. This will be his 5th year in the NFL. 25 years old, signs a free agent contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Robert Hainsey is an interesting player. And easily this guy is going to be recognized as playing for Liam Cohen, as Liam Cohen was an offensive coordinator with Tampa Bay last year. This guy was a backup center, and I think the year before had started at center. Robert Hainsey, the center, likely to start for the Jaguars, started actually for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2022 and 2023 before moving into more of a reserve role in 2024. So Robert Hainsey signed with the Jaguars. Offensive lineman Chuma Edoga. From the Dallas Cowboys, offensive lineman. This will be his 7th NFL season. He started 23 out of 48 NFL games in 6 NFL seasons. Played his first 3 NFL seasons with the Jets before, spending the 2022 season with the Falcons, and then played the last couple of years with the Cowboys. He was originally a 3rd-round selection by the Jets back in the 2019 NFL draft. That's an offensive lineman. And I think the Jaguars talk more highly about the other offensive linemen they signed, but they're high on both these guys or they wouldn't have signed them. And they've actually signed 3 offensive linemen when you consider Robert Hainsey a center, Chuma Edoga as another offensive lineman. Jaguars signed Jordan Lewis, who a lot of other teams talk about. They say you got to account for this guy. 5'10", out of Central Michigan, 29 years of age, 9th NFL season, brings some stability and some veteran leadership to go along with a guy that I really like, Tyson Campbell, who is locked up on a long-term second contract with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Jacksonville Jaguars sign Hunter Long, 6'5", 243 pounds. I like the college, Boston College. A lot of great Jaguars in the past have come out of Boston College. Let's take a look here. He's a tight end, 6'5", 243 pounds. And tight end, former team, Los Angeles Rams, 5th season now in the NFL, 26 years of age. Caught 8 passes for 68 yards in 4 NFL seasons. This guy's got to be good at blocking then. So this guy's a blocker and he knows the system. Hunter Long, 26 years of age, was in the Los Angeles Rams program, as I'll call it, the program with obviously Gladstone was out there. A guy that Gaylor talks really highly about, and this is probably the best offensive lineman of the 3, possibly. Offensive lineman, 6'4", out of the California Golden Bears, 6'4", 305 pounds. Patrick McCarry, a guard, but I'm told he can play all the offensive line positions. Former team Baltimore Ravens, moving into his 7th NFL season, age 27. Now, that gives you a veteran guy. I still think the Jags need to draft a left tackle, maybe even another guard. I think they need to draft a tackle and a guard in the 2025 upcoming NFL draft. Backup quarterback, the kid is gone. You know, the local Jacksonville kid is gone. Mac Jones has signed. The Jaguars didn't re-sign him, and now he's off to the 49ers to be their backup. Jaguars get a former guy that used to be a few years ago with the 49ers, I believe. Nick Mullins, 6 foot, out of Southern Mississippi, 210 pounds. Nick Mullins looks like he'll be the backup for the Jags. They could draft, a guy in the later rounds. Nick Mullins, former team Minnesota Vikings, and your offensive coordinator knows him well. Udinski. Grant Udinski, the 29-year-old offensive coordinator for the Jacksonville Jaguars, knows him well. Nick Mullins has signed as a free agent with the Jaguars. Looks like he'll most likely be the backup quarterback for the Jags. Former team Minnesota Vikings, now in his 9th NFL season. Still only 29 years of age. That's a good age for a quarterback. Johnny Munt, also with the Vikings, 29 years of age, 9th NFL season. A tight end, caught 65 passes for 547 yards and 4 touchdowns in 8 NFL seasons, including 19 receptions for 142 yards, 2 touchdowns this past season. This guy, he's got to be able to block. I'm sure he can block. Eric Murray, safety, Houston Texans, a lesser-known free agent for my money. He's 31 years of age, but now he's a safety. He's likely to start for the Jaguars. Has 3 career interceptions, including 1 in 2024. Eric Murray. Let me get that name straight. Blue, right? Eric Murray. You get those phone calls from all over the world, and when the call cranks up, it goes blip, blap, bloop, and you know it's from somebody you probably don't need to be talking to. Eric Murray, safety, former team Houston Texans, 31 years of age. Looks like the Jags are going to try to get a year out of him at safety. Cole Van Lanen is a guy that status tender off extended, 5th NFL season. I believe that Cole Van Lanen is an offensive lineman who is going to test free agency. If he signs with another team, the Jags can match whatever he's offered. That's how I understand it. So he's still officially. Is he on the Jaguars roster? I think maybe officially he is, but now he can sign with another team. But if he signs with another team, then the Jags can match the offer, as I understand it. So that's a look at some of the free agents. Did I get them all? I don't know. There might have been one I missed, but that's basically it. Free agent frenzy March. Most of that is in the books. Cooper Kupp. Boy, what a tongue twister. Cooper Kupp, who was a past Super Bowl MVP with Les Snead's Los Angeles Rams, and James Gladstone was kind of there as an assistant with Les Snead. The new Jacksonville Jaguars general manager is, no doubt, the one, the only, James Gladstone, who's signing new free agents, getting them into the Jaguars ecosystem, and it was pro free agency. And what's even more critical now in my mind, because you're talking about building this team for the next 2 years, the next 4 years, getting an offensive lineman or 2 on a rookie deal, a defensive tackle, probably still drafting a cornerback somewhere later on in the draft, maybe a backup quarterback. But the more important things for me is offensive line, a defensive tackle. Maybe the Jags are okay at cornerback now. They got the Dallas, cornerback. They also have Tyson Campbell. Cisco is gone, but the Jags replaced him with a 31-year-old guy from the Texans. But we're talking about 1 year. Every team changes from year to year, except these rookie guys that get drafted. They get on a 4-year deal. So that makes the NFL draft, extremely important for the Jacksonville Jaguars in late April of 2025. That's going to about do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. We're brought to you by Salsa Realty and Capital, by the MadMaxMix.weebly.com, Lake Eufaula Hits, and JC's live show from the pub on Thursday nights at LakeEufaulaHits.com. Great internet radio where it's all good. Special thanks goes out to John Gaylor, our correspondent and contributor, our executive producer, JC, and of course, another producer, Alex Nundry, who's around from time to time. And Alex, we appreciate everything you do. He helps run the Big J Facebook group chat. We appreciate that very, very much, Alex. Also, East Coast Hockey League standings. The Eichmann are coming off a loss to Orlando, a rare loss, by the way. Let's take a look at East Coast Hockey League standings. Give you a little update of Eichmann before we go. The Icemen having a great year. They're going down the stretch now. This team's going to be in the playoffs. They're 37-17-5. 37 wins. Wow, great year. 37-17-5 for the Jacksonville Icemen in the Southern Division of the large East Coast Hockey League. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. Now, do I need to say that this is still episode show number 12? I think I do. Episode show number 12A. And the reason why I'm going to say that is JC did message me. And hey, when you message us on the YouTube channel in the comments, we read them. It might take us a day or two sometimes. But JC, I was talking about number 12, and I mentioned, Joe Namath, probably my favorite number 12. And then I mentioned Bob Greasy with the perfect Miami Dolphins, even though Earl Morrall played most of that season. He wore 15, I believe. Bob Greasy wore number 12. Joe Willie Namath, number 12, who also played, as you know, at Alabama in college. I miss those days. That was actually before my time. But when I was a young kid, like post-toddler, 5, 6, 7 years old, Joe Namath was playing football for the Jets, wearing number 12. So was Jim Kelly from JC's Buffalo Bills, our executive producer. But we mentioned Bradshaw, Joe Namath, of course, Bob Greasy, Terry Bradshaw again. And then JC brought a guy's name up that I omitted. But I did say on the last podcast, in fairness to me, I did say and others. And a big other would be Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach. And JC, as you're watching this, I'll tell you, we want to talk in the future about backfields. Back in the day, 1970s, 1960s, even 1980s, there were two backs in the backfield with most teams, a fullback and a running back. And with Roger Staubach, and Tom Landry's offense really evolved and became more innovative with Staubach at quarterback as time went on. But one of the best tandems in the backfield for me was JC liked Robert Newhouse, I believe. And there were some other backs, but I really liked the year or two. It was probably 1 or 2 years when Calvin Hill and Dwayne Thomas were in the same backfield with Dallas. But Roger Staubach, you could not beat him for escapability, accuracy, throwing the ball. Roger the Dodgers, he was nicknamed Roger Staubach, number 12, who did win Super Bowls with the Dallas Cowboys. He beat the Miami Dolphins the year after the Baltimore Colts beat Dallas, but Roger Staubach was there. Dallas beat Miami, and then Miami turned around and won 2 straight Super Bowls after Dallas beat them. Man, we love to bring up the nostalgia stuff. JC, thank you for mentioning Roger Staubach, number 12 to me. So we're going to keep this episode at number 12A. JC, thanks for your request. Mad Max has been back on his show for, at least 2 weeks now after having surgery, and now he's back sounding as good and as great as ever. The Mad Max Mix. Weebly.com. Max, the first week Max came back, I believe he played a Steely Dan song for me. So Max, play some more Steely Dan for me. I'll get in touch with you this coming Wednesday, and hopefully I'll get a chance to come on the show and be interviewed by you again, Mad Max. That's going to do it for the Teal Shirt Report podcast. This show has been episode show number 12A. You guys have a great day. Go Jags. Duval.